as we move through the series of videos, we'll have a good amount of focus on information security, whether that be passwords or encryption or whatnot. Now, we're talking more about at the basic level, more generic stuff, conceptual stuff. We're not going to get into the highly detailed current implementation in modern industry because that's some really advanced stuff that you're not going to learn after just a few videos on YouTube. So let's first talk a little bit about passwords and algorithms you can use to create them. So first off, you might be wondering, is password security an issue? And yeah, it kind of is. So this guy, creator of Facebook, his social media accounts were hacked. Now, he was using a pretty terrible password for some of his, so that's kind of that issue there. But I guess that kind of goes right along with why you need a decent password. You might be thinking, but I'm not famous, so why does it matter? Because I'm not going to be targeted. But non-famous people get hacked too. Millions of LinkedIn passwords were leaked online, and yeah, that's not quite you getting hacked. That's LinkedIn getting hacked, but now your information is out there, and now they might be able to use that to get into other accounts of yours. And you might say, well, why would they want to do that? Well, there could be a number of reasons. If they can get enough of your information, they might be able to open a credit card in your name or a bank account in your name. They also might be able to get into your account to get contact information from other people. There have been instances where they will try to find out who you are and information about you and then use that to target people you know and make it sound like you're in trouble, like there's some problem, something happened to your family or to you and you need money, and they will try to scam people you know out of that money. Or they might just use those contacts to send them spam, to send them garbage. They might try to use it to infect computers with keyloggers to try to get information to Amazon or eBay or PayPal or other information. There's a variety of reasons why they might try to get your information, even if they don't know you, even if you're not famous. So in addition to LinkedIn, there were millions of accounts on Twitter that had their information leaked, along with services trying to help people find out if their accounts were compromised. 000webhost.com was hacked, which is a very popular free web hosting service. So that was 13 million emails and passwords. 5 million Google accounts had their passwords leaked a little while back, with that information readily available out there to people. Dropbox has 68 million accounts with leaked information. And Sony has been hacked several times as well. And of course, there were others. Adobe's been hacked. Sears had their information leaked a little while back. And of course, the Equifax leak that just happened recently as well. This happens and will probably continue happening. So it's important that you put a little thought into the way that you're keeping your accounts secure. So with all of those leaked accounts happening again and again and again, what have we learned from them? Unfortunately, most people haven't learned anything. So over the past few years, Splashdata and Naked Security have listed out some of the most commonly used passwords, and they are pretty bad. So we're going to look at the 25 most commonly used passwords over time from the reports that they have continually released over the past few years. Now, this data is from those leaked lists, so there is some variance, and it's not a completely accurate sample of the passwords used, because sometimes it's based on the service where that information came from. This data is all from English sites. So if you're looking at a website in Spanish, obviously their most frequently used passwords in there are probably not going to be these. If you're looking at a Russian website or a Chinese website or a Japanese website, once again, probably not these. But you'll get the idea. So these were the 25 most common passwords in 2010, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 being the most common. And that's a pretty terrible one. You can see there's a lot of terrible ones. A lot of them are just numbers across the top of your keyboard. QWERTY might look like a decent password, but it's not. If you look right below the numbers on your keyboard, what do you have? You have QWERTY in that order. Trust No One is pretty high on there. That was Agent Mulder's password in the X-Files series. Plus, it's just kind of a cutesy, seemingly clever password, so that probably doesn't help either. Let's see, let's look at 2011. look at how many of them are the same. There are a few new ones on there, so you can see a few that don't match up with the previous year. We've got password actually on there, but the O is a 0. Not very clever there. QAZWSX, third from the top, might seem like a decent password, but if you look at your keyboard, beneath the 1 at the top of your keyboard, you have Q, and below that there's A, and below that there's Z. Next column over, WSX. Not a great password. Let's look at 2012. Look at how many of them are still there. There are a few new ones, like welcome. Password with a 1 is on there now, so password with the O as a 0 is gone, but password with a 1 at the end. Super clever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes the lead again in 2013, and you can see there's tons of bad passwords again. If I remember correctly, in 2013 was when the Adobe hack happened. Adobe is the company that makes Photoshop, and you can see Adobe 123 is the 10 most common password from that year. That, of course, isn't really an accurate statement. That's on there because Adobe was one of the services that had the password hack. And Photoshop is on there at 15, and of course that's their most popular product. Azerty is kind of an interesting one. I'm not sure why that's so high up on there. I'm guessing it's just an alternate form of QWERTY, but I'm surprised that an alternate form would be that high up on there. I'm sure there's some explanation for that. In 2014, you can see most of the terrible passwords remain. Interesting to see that of the top 10, 5 of them are just straight across the number line at the top of your keyboard. Trust No One has plunged quite a bit further down, though. It's now at 25. But you can see a lot of the other ones are going strong still. 2015, still a lot of terrible passwords. That one in the middle at 15, 1QAZ, 2WSX, might seem like a pretty clever one, but look at your keyboard. Beneath the 1 is a Q, beneath the Q is an A, beneath the A is a Z. Beneath the 2 is a W, beneath the W is an S, and beneath the S is an X. Not that great. It looks good, it's pretty terrible. We have an extended version of QWERTY at the 22nd place. That's just the whole top line of letters across your keyboard. 2016, just last year. So the thing is, people don't pay any attention to password security and don't care about it, and it's obvious. What should passwords look like? There is a pretty well-known XKCD comic that came out a couple years ago, and they offered this sort of thing, where they talked about bits of entropy and how long it would take for a password to be cracked through brute force. And so they said instead of having all these special characters and symbols in there, just use 4 random common words because it will take a long time for it to be guessed. And yeah, that's true, but that's not often the issue. Majority of services now don't allow an infinite number of tries for your password anyway. So the bigger issue is either using a really common password or using the same password on everything and somehow your password being leaked or your computer being hacked and someone finding out your password that way. In which case you need some sort of algorithm where hopefully you're not using the same password for everything. So my passwords still look something more like these 4 examples I have here, where they look like some sort of random series of letters and numbers. These are all done through simple algorithms, and they're actually pretty memorable if you know the pattern. Password was a common password on there, and that's terrible. If you're going to choose a dumb password, at least be less dumb about it. So instead of writing password as your password, if you're going to do that, instead maybe like hold shift and use the letters up and left of password. So up and to the left of the P is the 0, but if you're holding shift, you're going to get the parenthesis. Above the A is the Q. Above the S is the W, and so on. So it's still a really dumb password overall, but at least it's not one of the most common 25, and it looks fairly difficult. Now you still have the issue of if you're using that for all of your sites, well, if they have one, then they have all. On the list, there were quite a few like girls' names on there or guys' names on there. Like I believe there was Ashley and there was Michael and was there a Stacy? I don't know. There was another one on there. If you really like someone and you're going to use their name, once again, at least do something intelligent with it. So if we use that same shifted up and left trick on Alina, we get QO8HQ, and that's kind of a short password. So if we type it again and we shift it up and to the left one more time and holding shift this time, we get exclamation point, open parentheses, star, capital Y, and exclamation point. And it still might be kind of a dumb method for your password, but at least it's not going to be easily guessed, and at least it won't be one of the top 25. Now, of course, once again, you still have that same problem of you have the same password for all of your services. A better way is to probably come up with some sort of phrase. So maybe a phrase that means something to you, as opposed to just someone's random name. So like for this one, don't quit your daydream. If we do the first letter of each one of those words, that's DQYDD. If we shift it up and to the left, we get E16EE. And then, maybe put in there something like your birthday, but don't just put your birthday in. That's a pretty easy one for people to guess. Maybe hold shift, because then you get all these special characters. Not really any hard to remember, but a lot harder for someone to guess. Really, you should be doing something a bit more complex, where you actually have different passwords for different sites, because even the previous one, you're still going to have that issue. So this is actually similar to how I design my passwords. So I'll find some random thing or some random phrase. So like here I have the Code Breakers on my bookshelf, which is a very well-known book on the history of cryptography. And to make sure that I'm not using the exact same password for all of my services, my password will do something like taking a letter or something from the email that I used for that account. So like, let's say that this is maybe a Yahoo account or something. So maybe I'll take the Y from that and I'll have it capitalized. So I've got a capital letter in my password. And then I have TCB, the initials of the Code Breakers. And then, let's see, which one was this? So initials of website service shifted up and right on keyboard. So the 9 is above the I and the Y is above the G. IG. Oh, Instagram. So that would be 9Y. So this is going to vary from service to service based partially on whatever the website is. And then the last one, current year while holding shift. So if this is 2017, that would be exclamation point and the ampersand. So this password is going to change both from site to site, but also from year to year. Now there are better ways to do this, and this isn't quite the pattern that I use, but you get the idea. This is the sort of pattern I would use, the sort of design that I would use for a password. Now, if we're going to talk about password security and designing passwords, it's also important to point out that there is another option. Don't make passwords. Let software do it for you. Now, there's a slight issue with this argument because you still need a password to get into your password manager. So perhaps you use one of the previous methods to design a password for your password manager. There are lots of password managers out there. The ones that are most commonly recommended are like Dashlane, which it says it's free, but there's a freestyle account, but there's also premium accounts depending on what sort of services you need. LastPass is kind of the same. There is a free version, but there's also the premium version that's probably closer to what you might actually need, $2 a month. RoboForm is sort of the same way. It has a free version, but it also has a paid version depending on what your needs are. Now, the most commonly completely free password manager that I've seen is KeepPass. It's pretty well recommended, but I haven't used it myself, so I can't tell you from personal experience. But if you're interested, go check it out. They, of course, do have a donate button because they would appreciate your money, but if you don't have any money to give, you can still use it. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you understand algorithms a little better, have a little more information on password issues as well, and I hope you'll join me for the next video where we start to actually program.